howdy folks. It is the 19th of April, Wednesday, 2023. And today I'm bringing you the most succinct argument against the Trinity. I know I've been on this jag for a long while now, but it's coming to a close here very, very shortly. We've talked about different problems that the doctrine of the Holy Trinity faces in light of the claim that the person of the Father is the uncaused cause of the other two persons. There's actually a far more succinct way of expressing it than I have expressed it so far. But I had to work through it the way I did in order to even understand that. So it was good that I took all those different paths and looked at the issue from different angles and kind of broke down the metaphysics of it into their constituent parts, or its constituent parts, I should say. There is a very particular, unique problem with saying, okay, let me step back real quick and there's a lot of things that I assume you understand when I make these videos, so I use nomenclature and vocabulary that a lot of people may not understand. But I'm assuming that a lot of my viewers do understand it. So let me just step back and say this. The Christian argument, or one Christian argument with regard to the doctrine of the Trinity, is that since the persons, okay, two things. The three persons have or possess or instantiate the fullness or totality of the divine nature or essence. At the same time, however, person is distinct from nature. They're not the same thing. And the three persons are distinct one from another. So the way they explain that distinction between nature and person, and the fact that the three persons are distinct from each other, is to posit that each person has a unique hypostatic, that's the Greek word, hypostasis is person. Each of the persons has a hypostatic property unique to itself. So the Father has the Son and the Spirit each have their own property, and each of those properties are expressing the fact that those two persons are caused, that they have a beginning, quote unquote, not literally a spatio-temporal beginning, but some kind of beginning in some sense. So they say that the property of the Son is to be begotten or to be generated by the Father, and the property of the Holy Spirit is to be spirated from the Father, which is what the Nicene Creed is referring to when it says, that's the idea the Creed is referring to when it says that the Holy Spirit proceedeth from the Father. The reason that the hypostatic property that is assigned to the Father by the Church, the reason that particular hypostatic property assigned to the Father opposes a huge huge problem for the doctrine of the Trinity is that it is describing a property or attribute of the divine nature. Now, with that said, Christianity also teaches, and I don't have a problem with this principle. In fact, I embrace this principle. They argue that nature of any kind, created nature, uncreated nature, the divine nature, nature is always hypostatized. It is never just, there's no such thing as raw nature. It's hypostatized, which means it always appears as a real concrete thing. So there's tree nature, there's cat nature, there's human nature, etc. And in the divine nature, there are three persons. So the divine nature is hypostatized by the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I do not have a problem with that principle. Just to be clear. But to be begotten and to be spirated is not a feature or characteristic of the divine nature. To be uncaused and to cause the other persons is a characteristic of the divine nature. Now, I know you can't separate, because I just got done saying that nature is hypostatized. So you cannot separate, I understand, you can't separate the nature from the Father, from the person. I'm not trying to do that. But what I am saying is this, to be very brief. You can't say that the Father causes eternally as the uncaused cause the other persons without saying something about the nature. So, because the nature is uncaused, right? And unless the nature were hypostatized by the Father, one could not say that the Father is the uncaused cause of the Son and Holy Spirit. So what is essentially being said or claimed is that the divine nature, as hypostatized by the Father, is the uncaused cause of the Son and Holy Spirit. That is to say, they are saying something about the divine nature relative to the Father specifically that they cannot say about the divine nature relative to the Son or the Holy Spirit. That is key, because what that means is that they are saying, without saying it, because obviously they don't want to say it because it would go against their doctrine, but what they are implying necessarily is that the Father participates in the divine nature to a greater or higher degree than the Son or the Holy Spirit. And that goes to the core of my argument that the Son and Spirit are ultimately subordinated to the Father according to the view that the Father is the uncaused cause of the Holy Trinity. I'm not going to go any further. I think that's a good place to stop, but that will lead into my next video, which I will create shortly.